basic financial concepts you should understand.
Taxes.
Picture this. Imagine you just had a hard month at work, slaving away flipping burgers at your local McDonald's. You're in bed when you get an email from them. It says you've been paid $2,000, but your bank account only gets $1,456. You scroll down the stub. Federal income tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare. This is the modern ritual of giving away a chunk of your money to invisible forces, and they expect you to say thank you. Here's the deal. Taxes are the cost of civilization. You pay, the government builds roads, funds schools, makes sure your favorite taco truck isn't infested with rats, and sends billion-dollar missiles to places you've never been. But there are different types of taxes. Income tax, which hits the money you make. Sales tax, which hits the money you spend. Capital gains tax, which hits the money your investments made while you were asleep. The government takes a little bit of every dollar. Nearly everyone also pays Social Security tax and Medicare tax. Basically, Social Security tax is like the government forcing you to save for your retirement. They force you to save money now, and you get it paid back to you over time when you retire. Medicare, however, is a health insurance tax that goes to supporting older people or people with serious health issues. Now comes filing your taxes. Oh boy, the government knows how much you owe, but it makes you guess. How cool. If you're right, no worries. But if you're wrong, you're cooked. When it comes to actually paying taxes, some people pay every few months. Some people pay yearly. And then there's those people that don't pay at all and end up in documentaries. I get that taxes are annoying, but it's not all bad. Countries with higher tax rates generally have a higher quality of life all round.
Banks. So, you walk into a bank, hand the cashier your money, they count it, smile, and tell you it will be added to your account. You walk out and think, great, now it's sitting in a vault somewhere, being guarded by a dragon. But in reality, that money's already gone. Most people think of banks like a big safe with only one job, guarding people's money. But in reality, they are just a middleman or a matchmaker for financial transactions. When you deposited that $1,000, the bank took $900 of it and gave it to someone who wants to buy a jet ski. That system is called fractional reserve banking, which basically relies on the idea that they only actually need to keep a fraction of the money on hand because not everyone is going to show up at the same time asking to withdraw 100% of their account. That is, unless it's 2008, of course, when people lined up to withdraw the entirety of their account, which caused the entire system to crumble. Banks make money by lending your money at a higher interest rate than they are giving you. That's really it. You're the supply of money, and the person borrowing is the demand. The banks entice you to deposit your money because of a few reasons. It's much easier and more convenient to spend on a card or transfer than carrying around cash all the time. They are literally paying you to hold your money with them in the form of interest. It is much safer to keep your money in a bank than in a shoebox in your room. In the US, most banks are insured up to $250,000 per person, meaning no matter what, the government assures you that your money, up to $250K, is safe.
Interest. Imagine you borrow $1,000. You have to pay back $1,280. Why? Because of interest. Interest is money's way of charging rent to exist in someone else's hands. When you borrow, interest is the price tag for using someone else's cash. When you lend or save, interest is the reward for being patient and boring. There are two main types. Simple interest is like, here's a flat fee, thanks for playing. Compound interest is, every dollar I gave you now has clones, and they also want rent. Let's say you owe 20% interest on a credit card. You miss a payment. Now your interest is earning interest. Soon, your $12 burrito turns into a $50 regret. On the flip side, investing at 7% annual compound interest, that's your money duplicating itself like a cheat code. $100 becomes $200, then $400. Then one day you wake up and you're old, rich, and a little smug about it. This is why interest is the silent engine behind both wealth and debt. In loans, it's the slow burn that turns small mistakes into financial fires. In investments, it's the time bomb that turns small gains into massive wins. So what's the hack? If you're paying interest, kill it fast. If you're earning interest, let it sit, feed it, and give it time. Interest is either your worst enemy or your best unpaid employee. The choice is in who's collecting it. Inflation. Okay, so you bought a bag of chips. Open it up, and it looks like it's already been half eaten. You check what you paid, 30% higher than last time. Then you realize you've just been hit by inflation. Inflation is what happens when money slowly gets less valuable over time. Not overnight, not with fireworks, just a slow erosion. Your $5 bill, still technically $5, but it buys less instant noodles, less gas, and doesn't actually have as much value as it did before. So what actually causes it? Sometimes people just have too much money. Everyone's got cash, and they all want to spend it on the same stuff. Let's say 2,000 people want this $500 TV, but the business only has 1,000 TVs for sale. So the business goes, oh, everyone wants this TV? That'll be $800 now. Sometimes it's supply chains with hiccups or problems. making the cost of producing a good or service more expensive, meaning the cost of that good or service must rise. Or sometimes, just cause. Expectations can cause inflation. If people think prices are rising, they'll spend more now, driving prices up faster. It's a self-fulfilling economic prophecy. A little inflation is normal, even good. 2% a year? That's fine, predictable. But if it spikes, savings die, wages lag. The government tries to fight inflation when this occurs, by raising interest rates. When the government raises interest rates, people are paying more interest, or it's more expensive to get a loan, meaning they have less money to spend on things like TVs. This causes a reduction in the amount of spending, pretty much cooling off the economy.
Recessions.
A recession is when the economy decreases for at least 2 quarters or 6 months in simple terms. One day you're fine, you've got a job, bills are paid, you might even be planning a trip with the family, but suddenly there's layoffs, the stock market's only going down. In a recession, jobs vanish, companies cut costs, and everyone saves their money for necessities instead of buying things they don't need. Why does a recession happen? It could be a range of things. Could be high interest rates, making borrowing too expensive. Could be a global crisis, war, pandemic, rogue container ship. Could just be the economic cycle doing what it does best. Boom, peak, bust, reset. Think of the economy as a party. In the boom phase, everyone's dancing, drinks are flowing. But eventually, the lights flicker, reality hits, someone checks their bank account, and suddenly, the DJ's playing sad lo-fi beats about corporate downsizing. Recessions aren't forever, they're resets, painful ones. Governments might lower interest rates, send out stimulus, or just hope people start buying overpriced coffee again. Eventually, spending returns, businesses rebuild, growth resumes, but not without scars.
Credit scores. A credit score is a shadowy algorithm that knows your name, your past, and how many times you paid your credit card late in college. A 3-digit number that decides whether you get a house, a car, or a soul-crushing 27% interest rate on your new TV. This number isn't about wealth. It's about trust. Lenders want to know, if I give this person money, will they actually pay me back? The score has a range from 300 to 850. Below 580, you're a walking red flag. Over 750, you're sparkling with adult credibility. Most people? Stuck somewhere between 640 and 790. How is a credit score calculated? Payment history. Do you pay on time? This is the big one. Credit utilization. How much credit are you using versus how much you could? Credit age. How long you've had accounts. Credit mix. Cards, loans, mortgages. Variety helps. New credit. Too many recent applications? All of these things are the ways it is calculated. But to actually increase your score, you have to make the required payments on each of your loans before you enter the late period. If you enter the late period, your score decreases. Your credit score is like a pet dog. Ignore it, and it poops all over your life. Take care of it, and someday it might help you buy a house. It's not about being good with money. It's about looking good to lenders. You can have 0 debt and still have a trash score if you don't have a credit history. So yes, the game is rigged. But if you learn the rules, you can rig it back. Currency, or money.
The weird part about currency and/or money is that it's actually not real. Humans have developed money in order to make the world better. Money makes trading easier, makes it easier to build systems and to organize society. In saying that, there is no more legitimacy between a dollar bill and a Bitcoin. People believe a dollar bill has more legitimacy, and maybe it does, for now, but only because people believe it does. The same can be said for a dollar bill and a stick. The only reason a dollar bill can buy something, and a stick cannot, is the fact that we as a society have agreed that a dollar bill is worth something, while a stick is not. So how does money actually work? Well, the government prints it, the central banks regulate it, and everyday people trade it in exchange for goods and/or services. The reason the banks have to regulate it is because if the government prints too much, then inflation kicks in, and everyone's money becomes monopoly money. If the banks make it so there is too little money, no one can afford to live. Currency, or money, is a social construct built on a shared belief and trust. Investing. So you know what inflation is now, and the best way to combat inflation, so your money doesn't become less valuable, is investing. Investing is what happens when your money stops sitting around and starts working for you. Instead of trading your time for money, you're trading money for more money. The problem is there is risk involved. What can you actually buy? Stocks. Tiny ownership slices of companies. If the company grows, your slice becomes more valuable. Bonds. Basically, you loan money to a government or company, and they pay you back with interest. Funds. Collections of stocks and bonds so you don't have to play financial games one by one. Real estate. Property you hope someone else pays to live in. forever. Of course, there are other things, but they are considered the main ones. Investing isn't about being lucky. It's about being early, diversified, and patient. Most wealthy people didn't win the lottery. They just gave compound growth 30 years to do its thing. And yes, investing comes with risk. Markets go up, markets go down. But the real danger isn't losing money. It's never investing and watching inflation quietly steal your future. Value. This one is more complex, but everyone should understand it. Imagine you pick up a rock. It's just a rock. Now imagine that rock is shiny and yellow. That's gold. It's rarer than an average rock, so there's a higher value placed on it. Gold is not actually worth more than the average rock. It's just worth more to humans because we place a higher value on it. Understanding this is what allows people to become rich. If you provide a lot of value, you will earn a lot of money. Steve Jobs created the iPhone you're most likely watching this on right now. He created something with a large amount of value, so millions of people gave him thousands of dollars for that bit of value. It's the same reason that doctors and lawyers earn so much money. The value they provide is large, and people are willing to pay a large amount of money for their service. Value is the same reason Gucci or Louis Vuitton can sell the same handbag as Target, but charge 100 times the price. People perceive it as more valuable, so it is. If you can figure out how to create value, even if it's not real value, you can make a lot of money. Time. Time is the most valuable asset in the world. And the best part? Almost everyone starts with a lot of it. You probably have a lot of it left. But no one gets an unlimited supply. Most people work jobs where time is traded directly for money. 1 hour, 1 paycheck. Simple math. The top earners have figured out how to make their time worth millions. And the difference isn't magic. It's skills, leverage, and how well you've trained your hours to work for you. But nowhere does time work harder than in investing. There is no greater force in wealth building. Not luck, not income, time. Because wealth isn't built in days, it's built in decades. Money that sits quietly in an investment doesn't just grow, it multiplies. Slowly at first, then faster. That's why ordinary people with modest paychecks can retire with 7 figures. They didn't beat the system, they used the system. A little money, invested consistently, given enough time, becomes a lot of money. Financial facts that are totally incorrect. Cash is safe. I keep my money in cash so I don't lose anything. It's what people say when they're scared of the stock market, when they don't trust banks, or when they just want to feel like their money is secure. And it makes sense on the surface. Cash doesn't go down. It doesn't crash. You can't lose it to a bad investment. It just sits there, safe and steady. But here's the reality. Cash is quietly killing your wealth. Inflation is eating your money every single day. Right now, inflation's running around 3% annually. That means if you have $10,000 in cash, after 1 year, it's only worth $9,700 in actual purchasing power. You didn't spend a cent, but you lost $300 anyway. Over 10 years, that same cash loses 20 to 30% of its value just sitting there. The number on the bills stays the same, but what you can buy with it shrinks. So while you think you're protecting your money by keeping it in cash, you're actually guaranteeing a loss. You're choosing the certainty of losing to inflation over the possibility of market risk. And that's the irony. People hold cash to avoid risk, but cash is the riskiest long-term position you can take. If you want your money to actually hold its value, it needs to be working, invested, growing. Cash has a purpose: emergencies, short-term needs, liquidity. But as a long-term strategy, it's financial self-sabotage. You should max out your 401k before anything else. Financial advisors love to say, max out that 401k. It's the advice that gets repeated everywhere. Contribute the maximum, get that tax advantage, secure your retirement. Sounds responsible, right? And in a lot of cases, it is. Retirement accounts are powerful. Tax-deferred growth, compound interest over decades, employer matching, all of that is great. But here's the reality. Maxing out your 401k isn't always the smartest first move. If you're sitting on high-interest debt, paying that off first makes way more sense. Think about it. Your credit card is charging you 20% interest. Your 401k might return 7% on average. You're losing 13% by prioritizing retirement over debt. The math doesn't work. You're bleeding money trying to build wealth at the same time. So, what's the smart order? Get your employer match first. That's free money. Don't leave it on the table. Then, tackle high-interest debt. After that, build an emergency fund so you're not forced to go back into debt when life happens. Once those boxes are checked, then you can think about maxing contributions. The point is, personal finance isn't one size fits all. What works for someone debt-free with stable income doesn't work for someone drowning in credit card payment. Maxing your 401k is a good goal, but it's not always step one.
Gold is the safest investment. When everything crashes, gold holds value. It's the doomsday investor's favorite line. Stock market tanks? Gold's got you. Economy collapses? Gold's still there. It's been valuable for thousands of years, so it must be the safest bet, right? Gold has a place in history. It's been currency, jewelry, a store of value across civilizations, so the appeal makes sense. But here's the reality. Gold is not some guaranteed safe haven that protects your wealth. First off, gold is volatile. The price swings wildly. It can spike during crises, sure, but it can also drop hard and stay down for years. From 2011 to 2015, gold lost nearly 45% of its value. That's not stability. Second, gold produces nothing. It doesn't pay dividends. It doesn't generate income. It just sits there. You're betting entirely on someone else being willing to pay more for it later. Compare that to stocks. Over the long term, the stock market has crushed gold in returns. We're talking decades of data showing equities outperforming precious metals by a massive margin. So what is gold actually good for? It's a hedge, a small part of a diversified portfolio that can protect against inflation or currency collapse. But it's not your whole strategy. A car is an investment. I'm investing in a reliable vehicle. You hear this all the time. People justify dropping $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on a car by calling it an investment, like it's going to pay them back somehow. And look, I get it. You need a car. It gets you to work. It's reliable. It's necessary. So it feels like you're putting your money into something valuable. But here's the reality. A car is not an investment. It's a depreciating expense. The second you drive that car off the lot, it loses value. We're talking 20 to 30% in the first year alone. You paid $40,000, and 12 months later, it's worth $28,000. That's not an investment. That's financial bleeding. Over the next few years, it keeps losing value. Maintenance costs go up. Repairs start piling on. Insurance, registration, gas, it's all money going out, never coming back. An investment is something that grows in value or generates income. Real estate can appreciate. Stocks pay dividends. Businesses produce profit. A car? A car just costs you money until you sell it for a fraction of what you paid. Now, are there exceptions? Sure. Classic cars, collectible vehicles, rare models that actually appreciate over time. But let's be honest, you're not buying those. You're buying a Honda or a Toyota to get to work. So call it what it is, a necessary expense, a tool, a depreciating asset, but not an investment. Crypto is the future of money. Get in now or regret it forever. That's the battle cry. Cryptocurrency is going to replace traditional currency. Banks are going to collapse, and early adopters are going to be the new millionaires. You don't want to miss out, do you? And look, some people did get rich. The ones who bought Bitcoin at $1 and sold at 60,000. The early adopters who timed it perfectly. But here's the reality. For every success story, there are thousands of people who lost everything. Crypto is insanely volatile. It can swing 20% in a single day. One tweet from a billionaire can crash the market. Regulatory crackdowns can wipe out entire coins overnight. That's not currency behavior, that's casino behavior. And actual real-world use? Still extremely limited. You can't pay your rent in Bitcoin. Most businesses don't accept it. Transaction fees can be absurd. It's slow, it's clunky, and for everyday purchases, it's basically useless. So what is crypto actually? It's a speculative asset. Maybe it has a future in finance. Maybe blockchain technology changes things long term. But right now, it's gambling, not investing. If you want to throw some money at it, fine. Treat it like a lottery ticket. Only bet what you can afford to lose entirely. But if you're sitting there thinking crypto is going to replace the dollar and make you rich, you're not investing.
you're hoping.
You need a financial advisor to invest. Investing seems complicated, so you need to pay an expert, right? The stock market, bonds, asset allocation, rebalancing, it all sounds like a foreign language. Surely regular people can't navigate this without professional help. And that's exactly what the financial industry wants you to think. For most people, investing is absurdly simple. You don't need someone in a suit to do it for you. Index funds and ETFs make it brain-dead easy. You buy one fund and you're instantly invested in hundreds or thousands of companies across the entire market. No stock picking, no timing, no complexity. A target date fund does even more. It automatically adjusts your portfolio as you get closer to retirement. You literally set it and forget it. So why do people still hire advisors? Because the industry has convinced everyone it's too hard to do alone. But here's the cost. Financial advisors typically charge 1 to 2% of your assets annually. That sounds small, but over 30 years, that fee can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost returns. Now, when do you need a financial advisor? Complex estate planning, business transitions, managing huge amounts of wealth, tax optimization across multiple accounts. That's when expertise actually matters. But if you're just trying to invest for retirement, a low-cost index fund does the job for a fraction of the price. You don't need permission to manage your own money.
You need money to make money.
The classic excuse for why you're not investing yet. I'll start when I have more saved up. I'll invest when I can actually afford it. You need money to make money, right? It's the line people use to justify waiting, and it sounds reasonable. Investing feels like something for people with thousands sitting around, people who've already figured everything out. But here's the reality. You can start investing with $5. Literally $5. Fractional shares changed the game. You don't need to buy a whole share of Amazon or Apple anymore. You can buy a piece of one. Apps like Robinhood, Fidelity, and Vanguard let you invest whatever you've got, even if it's pocket change. And here's why starting small matters more than starting big. Compound interest doesn't care how much you start with. It cares about time. If you invest $50 a month starting at $25, by the time you're 65, that's over $150,000. Assuming average market returns. Wait until you're 35 to start, even if you're investing more per month, and you'll never catch up to the person who started earlier with less. The mistake people make is thinking the amount matters more than the habit. Start small, stay consistent. Let time do the heavy lifting. You don't need money to make money. You just need to start.
You need a credit card to build credit.
Everyone says, get a credit card or you'll have no credit score. You turn 18, and suddenly everyone's telling you the same thing. Get a credit card. Start building credit. You'll need it for everything. And look, it sounds logical. Credit cards report to credit bureaus. They show you can handle borrowed money. And over time, that builds your credit history. So the thinking goes, no credit card equals no credit score equals you're screwed. But here's the reality. Credit cards aren't the only way to build credit. Not even close. Your rent payments? Those can report to credit bureaus now through services like Rental Karma. You're already paying it anyway, so why not get credit for it? Utility bills and phone bills can help build your credit history through programs like Experian Boost. Those on-time payments you've been making for years can actually count toward your score. Then there are credit builder loans. You borrow a small amount, the bank holds it, you make payments, and by the end, you get the money back with a credit history built. You can become an authorized user on someone else's card. Their good payment history gets reported to your credit without you even using the card. Student loans, car loans, personal loans, all of these report to credit bureaus and build your history. So the truth? Credit cards are one tool. A useful one, sure, but they're not the only way in. Renting is throwing money away. Your parents probably told you renting is just making someone else rich. It's the advice that gets passed down like some universal truth. Stop wasting money on rent. Buy a house. Build equity. At least you'll own something. And on the surface, it makes sense. When you rent, you pay every month and walk away with nothing. When you buy, that monthly payment goes towards something you own. Sounds like a no-brainer, right? But here's the reality. Buying a house costs way more than just the mortgage. You've got property taxes that never stop, homeowner's insurance, maintenance and repairs that come out of nowhere, the roof needs replacing, the furnace dies, the plumbing breaks, and all of that is on you. Then there's the down payment. That's tens of thousands of dollars up front that could have been invested elsewhere, growing over time. In many markets, when you actually run the numbers, renting and investing the difference beats homeownership
by a lot. You're not throwing money away. You're buying flexibility and liquidity. Plus, if you're not staying in one place for at least 5 to 7 years, the closing costs and transaction fees wipe out any equity you might have built. So when does buying make sense? When you're settled, when the market supports it, and when you actually want the responsibility. You can time the market. Buy low, sell high. Sounds simple enough, right? Sell everything, then buy back in at the bottom. You'll make a fortune. That's the dream. And it's exactly what millions of people try to do. They watch the news, follow trends, read predictions, and convince themselves they can outsmart the market. But here's the reality. You can't. And neither can the professionals. Study after study shows that even expert fund managers with entire teams of analysts fail at timing the market consistently. The ones who get it right once, they rarely get it right twice. It's basically luck disguised as skill. And here's the kicker. Missing just the 10 best days in the market over a 20-year period can cut your returns in half. Think about that. 10 days out of thousands, and your entire strategy falls apart. The problem is, those best days usually happen right after the worst day. So if you panic and sell during a crash, you missed a recovery. You lock in losses and miss the gains. The data is clear. Time in the market beats timing the market every single time. So what actually works? Dollar cost averaging. Buying consistently, whether the market's up or down. Staying invested long term. Ignoring the noise. You're not smarter than the market. Nobody is. Stop trying to beat it and just ride it. Paying off your mortgage early is always smart. Being debt-free sounds like the dream, right? No more monthly payments, you own your home outright, financial freedom. So naturally, you should throw every extra dollar at your mortgage and pay it off as fast as possible. And emotionally, that feels amazing. There's real psychological value in owning your home free and clear. But here's the reality. Mathematically, it's not always the smartest move. If your mortgage rate is 3% and you can invest that money and get an average return of 8%, you're losing money by paying off the mortgage early. That extra payment could be growing elsewhere, earning you way more than you're saving in interest. It's called opportunity cost. Every dollar you put toward your mortgage is a dollar that's not compounding in the market for the next 20 or 30 years. Now, when does paying off your mortgage early make sense? When rates are high, when you're close to retirement and want stability, when the peace of mind is worth more to you than the potential returns. That's the thing. Sometimes the wrong financial choice is the right personal choice. If being debt-free lets you sleep better at night, that has value too. But if you're making extra payments just because it sounds responsible, run the actual numbers first. You might be sacrificing hundreds of thousands in long-term growth for the feeling of security today. Student loans are good debt. It's an investment in your future. That's what they tell you when you're 18, signing loan documents for tens of thousands of dollars. Education pays off. A degree opens doors. Student loans are good debt because they're helping you earn more later. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes. But here's the reality. It depends entirely on the degree, the school, and the career field you're going into. An engineering degree with $30,000 in debt, that can work. You graduate, get a solid paying job, pay it off in a few years, and move on with your life. An art history degree with $200,000 in debt from a private university, that's financial suicide. You're starting your career already drowning, and the income isn't there to justify it. The trap is that student loans follow you forever. You can't discharge them in bankruptcy. They don't go away. Miss payments, and they'll garnish your wages. Default, and your credit is destroyed. So the real calculation isn't, is college worth it? It's, is this degree from this school at this cost worth it compared to what I'll actually earn? Because a $100,000 education that leads to a $40,000 salary isn't an investment, it's a trap. Student loans can be good debt if the numbers make sense, but too many people take on massive debt without ever running those numbers. And by the time they realize the math doesn't work, it's too late.
Financial habits that secretly make you richer.
Spending money to save time. Most people think getting rich means spending less, cutting subscriptions, skipping takeout, doing everything yourself. But the wealthiest people spend more, and they do it on purpose. They buy back time. Paying for grocery delivery, cleaning help, or software that automates boring work seems wasteful, until you realize time is the only thing that can't be replaced. Every hour you outsource becomes an hour you can spend earning, thinking, or resting.
all things that multiply over time. The average person trades time for money. The rich trade money for time. It's not about luxury, it's about leverage. If your time is worth $50 an hour and you can pay someone $20 to handle it, you're not being lazy, you're compounding productivity. Over years, this flips your entire financial trajectory. People who hoard time tasks stay stuck working in their life. People who buy back time start working on it. The poor save dollars. The rich save hours. And hours, unlike money, never come back once they're spent. Measuring purchases in hours. Here's a habit that quietly rewires your brain. Stop measuring money in dollars. Measure it in time. Every purchase becomes a trade between your wallet and your life. A $60 dinner isn't $60. It's 2 or 3 hours of your time. A $1,000 phone is 40 hours of your life. When you see time instead of price, your brain suddenly gets honest about what matters. That's why people who think this way spend less, not because they're frugal, but because they've connected money to meaning. When something costs 10 hours, you ask yourself, is this really worth a full day of my life? Usually the answer's no. The key is that you stop chasing the short dopamine hits of spending and start valuing free time like income. The wealthy already think this way. As I said in the last section, the rich buy time instead of spending it. Using debt to your advantage. Debt is one of those words that scares people, and rightfully so. Bad debt traps you. It's the quicksand of the financial world, easy to step into and nearly impossible to escape. But used right, debt becomes a sort of leverage, one that multiplies your effort far beyond what saving ever could. It's how businesses scale, homeowners build equity, and investors grow faster than inflation. Debt is a tool. It just depends who's holding it. Poor debt buys comfort. Rich debt buys freedom. A car loan for a luxury model bleeds you and holds you down. A loan for property that appreciates pays you back. Most people think of debt as something to fear, but the smart ones treat it like rented speed. Dangerous if uncontrolled, but powerful in skilled hands. The key isn't avoiding debt. It's making sure the thing you borrow for grows faster than the interest you owe. That's how fortunes are built. But if used wrong, debt owns you. Refusing to save every penny. It sounds irresponsible, refusing to save. But here's the paradox. People who try to save every penny almost never get rich. They're too focused on defense, never offense. Saving is survival, not what helps you grow. If all you do is cut costs, your entire financial world shrinks around what's safe. But when you spend strategically on things that expand income, like tools, skills, or relationships, you break that ceiling. The rich don't obsess over $5 coffees. They obsess over $50,000 opportunities. Hoarding money builds fear. Investing it builds momentum. You don't get wealthy by being cheap. You get wealthy by being efficient. When every dollar has to be justified, none of them get to grow. Money has a purpose: to move, to build and multiply. And if you trap it under your mattress, it stops being money at all. It just becomes paper. Investing into yourself. This one feels weird because it looks selfish, spending on yourself instead of saving. But investing into yourself is the single highest return asset class in existence. Courses, coaches, therapy, mentors, fitness, they all seem expensive until you realize how much they change your output. Another way to invest into yourself is paying for accountability. Most people rely on motivation, but motivation is unreliable. Accountability makes progress automatic. The money you spend to have someone expect something from you, a deadline, a deliverable, a goal, forces you to become the kind of person who doesn't waste potential. When you pay for something, you pay attention to it. That's why people who invest in their own growth accelerate faster. They attach real cost to not making progress. Avoiding good deals. Everyone loves a deal. 30% off, buy one, get one, limited time only. I could go on forever. But that feeling of winning at spending is what keeps most people broke. A deal is still an expense. The discount doesn't matter if you didn't need it in the first place. That's the trap. Sales make you feel smart for losing money slower. Wealthy people don't chase deals,
because they know attention is the real cost. Every good deal steals focus and time you could spend earning or creating. Discounts are marketing, not miracles. Imagine you got offered 50% off of an item that was marked up twice the original price. You've just been manipulated by marketing into buying something for the normal price. The rich measure value by utility instead of a simple price. If something improves their life, they pay full price. If it doesn't, it's overpriced even at 90% off. Good deals keep poor people busy saving pennies. It's better to pay full price for something you need than get 90% off something you don't need.
Overpaying on purpose. Overpaying on purpose feels stupid. Why give away more than you owe? But that's exactly why it works. It's not about wasting money. It's about rewiring how you think about it. Most people live in survival mode, always calculating the bare minimum. The minimum payment, the cheapest option, the lowest bid. Overpaying flips that psychology. When you round up payments, send extra toward your credit card, or pay bills early, you teach your brain that money isn't something to hoard in fear. It's a tool you control. The act itself builds an abundance mentality. Instead of, I can't afford this, your mind starts thinking, I'm ahead. And this changes everything. You gain peace, not pressure. Your debts shrink faster. Your relationships with money and people become cleaner because you stop nickel and diming life.
Spending on mistakes. We're taught that every mistake costs money. The wealthy treat mistakes differently. They spend on them intentionally. Buying cheap gear, outsourcing too soon, or paying someone else's fee might feel like a bad purchase, but in reality, it's a strategic risk. The lesson costs less than the opportunity lost by inaction. They pay for clarity, not comfort. The moment you stop trying to avoid all mistakes is the moment you start learning fast. Each failed experiment becomes a data point, each misstep a calibration. Wealth doesn't come from getting everything right. It comes from correcting courses quickly. So spending a little now to know that won't work saves a lot later in wasted time and compounded indecision. Mistakes cost money, yes, but indecision costs years. And if there's anything you should have taken from this video so far, it's that wealthy people prefer to waste money than time. Emotionally detaching yourself from money. Most people live in emotional debt to their bank balance. When they have money, they feel safe. When they don't, they panic. The wealthy learn to detach from that cycle. They see money as a tool, not as a mood indicator. Detachment doesn't mean not caring. It means not depending. When your emotions rise and fall with your income, you make desperate choices, chasing quick wins, selling too soon, buying too fast. Emotional neutrality is what keeps investors calm when markets crash, and creators focused when results lag. The rich treat money like oxygen, essential but invisible once it's flowing. They track it, respect it, but never let it define their self-worth. Because the moment money controls how you feel, it starts controlling what you do.
Ignoring windfalls. When most people get a small financial win, a refund, a bonus, a random crypto gain, they celebrate by spending it. But the rich usually do nothing. They act like it never happened. Every unplanned dollar quietly becomes an invisible worker, invested, automated, or saved for the next opportunity. It's psychological training. Ignoring the dopamine hit of sudden money builds control. It's not the big wins that create wealth. It's how you handle the small ones. Every time you treat a surprise dollar like just another tool, you strengthen the habit that builds freedom. When you stop letting extra money feel extra, you stop resetting your progress every time life gives you a lucky break.
Taking risks on purpose. Most people think rich people love risk, but the truth is they train for it. They take small, controlled risks constantly, so big ones don't scare them later. It's not gambling, it's building tolerance. Every decision that feels uncertain, starting a side project, changing careers, investing early, is a rep in risk training. The poor avoid that feeling, the rich seek it, because there's no path to wealth that doesn't go straight through risk. It's the toll gate between comfort and freedom, and you can't skip it. Risk isn't what loses people money. Panic does. The wealthy learn to separate fear from danger, to act before everything feels safe. Every fortune started with someone who stepped into uncertainty on purpose. The goal isn't to eliminate risk, it's to get so familiar with it that you stop needing certainty to move forward. Only buy things you can afford. Most people think, can I buy this means, do I have the money? But the rich think differently. They ask, can I afford this? There's a huge gap between the two. You can purchase almost anything with debt, credit, or sacrifice, but you can only afford what won't change your stress level after you buy it. If it steals sleep, time, or future freedom, it's not affordable, it's just available. The wealthy measure affordability in peace of mind, not price tags. They buy slowly, deliberately, only when it costs them nothing beyond money. Because the truth is, being able to buy something doesn't make you rich. Being able to buy it and feel nothing afterward does. Using envy as power. Most people waste envy. They treat it like poison. The wealthy use it like data. When they feel jealous, they don't hide from it, they study it. Because envy points directly to the gap between what you want and what you've built. If you feel it, it means something in you recognizes possibility. Instead of resenting that person, they reverse engineer them. Habits, systems, mindset, until they turn jealousy into a map. It's your emotional navigator, showing exactly where your next level lives. The poor try to silence envy. The rich try to decode it. Because you can't transform what you won't look at. Every feeling of why not me is a mirror saying it could be. The difference is what you do next. Every financial trap middle-class people fall into. Lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep is when your spending rises to perfectly match every raise you get. You make more money, but somehow you're still broke at the end of every month. It happens everywhere. Promotions, bonuses, new jobs. The income goes up, and quietly, invisibly, so does everything else. At first, it feels like reward. You worked hard, you earned more, so you deserve better. Maybe it starts small. A nicer apartment, a faster internet plan, eating out twice a week instead of once. Each upgrade feels justified, reasonable, like you're finally living the life you were supposed to. Your brain tells you this is progress, you're moving up. Then the raise hits your account, and within weeks it vanishes. Rent is higher now. The car payment is bigger because you traded up. Subscriptions you forgot about pull 20 here, 15 there. The grocery bill doubled because you buy the good stuff now. None of it feels wasteful. It all feels normal. But here's what actually happened. Your lifestyle expanded to consume every extra dollar. You're not saving more. You're not investing more. You're just spending more to feel the same. The gap between what you earn and what you keep stays exactly the same or shrinks. The trap isn't the spending. It's believing that more income equals more freedom. But freedom only exists in the gap between earning and spending. Lifestyle creep closes that gap completely. You make more and more, but you never actually get ahead. You just get comfortable being broke at a higher salary. The car payment treadmill. The car payment treadmill is when you trade in your car every few years to get a lower monthly payment, but you never actually own anything. You're always paying, always owing, always stuck in the cycle. It starts at the dealership. Your current car works fine, but the salesman shows you something newer, better gas mileage, nicer interior, safer features. Then comes the pitch. We can get you out of your old payment and into this for less per month. It sounds perfect. Lower payment, better car, you sign. Here's what actually happens. Your old loan gets rolled into the new one. You still owe money on a car you no longer have, and now you owe even more on the new one. The payment drops because they stretch the loan from 5 years to 7. You're paying less each month, but paying for longer, and the total cost explodes. 3 years later, you do it again. Another trade, another lower payment, another longer loan. Each time, you restart the clock. Each time, you owe more than the car is worth. That gap between what you owe and what it's worth is called being upside down, and you're drowning in it. The cycle never ends because you never let it. You keep chasing lower payments instead of ownership. Meanwhile, someone who bought once and kept it has been driving for free for years. You think you're upgrading. Really, you're just renting with extra steps and worse terms. The minimum payment illusion. The minimum payment illusion is when credit cards let you pay tiny amounts each month while interest silently multiplies your debt for decades. You think you're managing it. You're actually feeding it. Every month, the statement arrives. You owe $3,000, but the minimum payment is only $60. That feels manageable, affordable, safe. So you pay the $60 and move on with your life. The card company smiles. Here's what's happening behind the screen. Most of that $60 goes straight to interest, not your actual debt. Maybe $10 touches the balance you owe. The rest vanishes into the bank's pocket. Next month, interest bills builds on the full amount again. Your balance barely moves. At this rate, that $3,000 debt will take over 12 years to pay off. You'll end up paying nearly $6,000 total, double. And that's only if you never use the card again, which most people do. The trap works because $60 feels harmless. Your brain sees a number you can afford and stops thinking about the math underneath. Meanwhile, compound interest runs quietly in the background, growing your debt while you sleep. Credit card companies design minimum payments specifically to keep you paying forever. They're not helping you manage debt, they're helping themselves to your future income, one small payment at a time. You think minimum means enough, it actually means endless. House poor. House poor is when you buy the maximum house the bank approves, then spend every dollar you earn just keeping it. You own the address, but the address owns you. The bank runs the numbers and says you qualify for $400,000. That sounds like permission, like proof you can afford it. So you buy at the top of your budget, maybe even stretch a little higher. The mortgage fits, barely, and you convince yourself the rest will work out. Then reality arrives. The mortgage eats half your income. Property taxes come due. Homeowner's insurance is more than you expected. The air conditioner dies in July. The roof needs repair. The lawn needs care. Every month brings another bill you didn't budget for because the bank only calculated the mortgage, not the life that comes with it. You can't go out anymore. Vacations disappear. Savings stop. One broken appliance becomes a crisis because there's no room left in the budget. You're working just to keep the lights on in a house that's supposed to represent success. The bank approved you for the maximum you could pay, not the maximum you should pay. They profit from the biggest loan possible. You're the one who has to live inside that decision for 30 years. You wanted a home. What you got was a beautiful financial prison. The walls are nice, but you can't leave, can't breathe, can't build a life beyond maintaining the structure. That's not ownership. That's expense. The whole life insurance scam. Whole life insurance is when you pay massive premiums for coverage that's supposed to build cash value like an investment, but really just enriches salespeople while your money sits trapped and growing slowly. The pitch sounds perfect. You get life insurance that never expires. Plus, it builds savings you can borrow against. Two products in one. The agent calls it forced savings, smart planning, a way to protect your family and build wealth. You sign up thinking you've made a responsible adult decision. Here's what happens to your money. A huge chunk of every payment goes to commissions and fees. The agent gets paid first, handsomely. What's left gets divided between the actual insurance costs and a cash value account that grows at maybe 2 or 3% per year, sometimes less. Meanwhile, you could have bought term life insurance for a tenth of the price and invested the difference in a basic index fund earning 8 to 10% annually. Over 20 years, that difference becomes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Your whole life policy builds maybe $30,000 in cash value. The math is brutal. Worse, if you try to access that cash value, you have to borrow against your own money and pay interest. If you die, the insurance company keeps the cash value and only pays the death benefit. You've been feeding an account you'll never fully access. Whole life insurance isn't protection. It's a wealth transfer from you to the insurance company, disguised as financial planning. Paying for convenience. Paying for convenience is how small daily shortcuts drain thousands from your account every year without you noticing. Delivery fees, subscription services, premium upgrades. Each one costs almost nothing. Together, they cost everything. It starts innocently. You're tired after work, so you order dinner instead of cooking. $7 delivery fee, $4 service charge plus tip, $15 extra just to avoid the stove. Once a week becomes twice, then 3 times. That's over $2,000 a year on fees alone. Then come the subscriptions. Streaming services you barely watch. Apps with premium features you never use. Cloud storage for files you forgot about. Gym memberships for equipment gathering dust. Each one is only $10 or $15 a month. Totally reasonable. Except you have 12 of them running silently in the background.
Add express shipping because waiting 3 days feels impossible.
Upgrade your phone plan for unlimited data you don't need. Buy pre-cut vegetables because chopping takes time. Pay for parking close to the entrance. Every single choice trades money for minor comfort. The math is staggering. $5 here, $12 there. By year's end, these invisible conveniences have pulled $4,000 to $6,000 from your income. Money that could have cleared debt, built savings, or funded something that actually mattered. Convenience isn't the enemy, but convenience as default bleeds you dry. Each small choice feels harmless because harm hides in repetition. You're not buying comfort, you're renting it forever at compound cost.
Keeping up appearances. Keeping up appearances is financing a middle-class image through debt to prove success to people who don't actually care about you. New clothes for events, fancy dinners to impress friends, vacations you can't afford posted online. All of it borrowed against a future you're destroying. It starts with comparison. Your coworker bought a new watch. Your neighbor remodeled their kitchen. Your friend's Instagram shows another trip to Europe. Suddenly, your life feels smaller, less impressive. You need to catch up to show you're doing just as well. So you spend. The credit card comes out. Designer handbag to signal taste. Dinner at the expensive restaurant so people see you there. A vacation package financed over 12 months because everyone else is traveling. Each purchase isn't for you. It's for the audience, real or imagined, that you think is keeping score. Here's the truth nobody admits. They're not watching. They're too busy financing their own appearance to notice yours. That coworker with the watch is drowning in payments. The neighbor remortgaged their house. Your friend's Europe trip maxed out 3 cards. Everyone's faking it, assuming everyone else is real. Meanwhile, the debt piles up. You're paying interest on experiences you didn't enjoy and items you didn't need, all to impress people who forgot about it the next day. You think you're building status. Really, you're buying approval from strangers using money you'll spend decades paying back. The appearance of success costs actual success, and nobody's even looking. The emergency-free delusion. The emergency-free delusion is living paycheck to paycheck while assuming nothing will ever break, get sick, or go wrong. No savings buffer, no backup plan, just blind faith that life will stay perfectly smooth forever. Every dollar gets assigned before it arrives. Rent, groceries, bills, subscriptions, debt payments. The budget balances perfectly as long as nothing unexpected happens.
And you convince yourself nothing will. The car will keep running, your health will hold, the water heater will last, everything will be fine. Then reality hits. The transmission fails, your tooth cracks and needs a crown, the laptop dies right before a work deadline, the dog needs emergency surgery. Suddenly you need $800, then $1,500, then $3,000. Money you don't have because you never built a cushion, so the credit card comes out. What should have been an inconvenience becomes debt with interest. One emergency turns into years of payments. And because you're still living paycheck to paycheck, the next emergency does the same thing. The cycle compounds. Financial experts say keep 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. Most people have less than $400. That gap between should and reality is where disaster lives. The delusion isn't that emergencies might happen. It's believing you're the exception, that your car is different, that your luck will hold, that somehow, unlike everyone else, your life will stay predictable and smooth. Emergencies aren't rare, they're guaranteed. Living without savings doesn't mean you're optimistic. It means you're one breakdown away from financial collapse every single day. Retail therapy addiction is using shopping as emotional regulation, creating debt to solve problems that spending created in the first place. You feel bad, so you buy something. It works for an hour. Then the guilt and debt make you feel worse, so you buy again. It starts as reward. Bad day at work, treat yourself. Stressful week, you deserve new shoes. Relationship tension, a little shopping helps you cope. The purchase delivers a hit of dopamine. For a moment, you feel better, accomplished, in control. But the feeling fades fast. The dopamine drains, and you're left with the same problems plus a charge on your card. Except now there's also guilt, shame about spending, anxiety about the balance. So your brain, desperate for relief, suggests the same solution. Buy something else. The cycle repeats. Each purchase digs the hole deeper. The credit card balance climbs. The closet fills with things you don't need and barely use. You're spending money you don't have to feel better about spending money you didn't have. The debt itself becomes the source of stress you're shopping to escape. Retailers know this pattern. Sales, limited offers, flash deals, everything designed to trigger urgency and emotion. Buy now, feel better now, worry later. But later always comes. Shopping isn't solving your problems. It's becoming the problem while disguising itself as the cure. You think you're treating yourself. Really, you're medicating with merchandise and paying interest on temporary relief. The bill arrives long after the dopamine is gone. The retirement delay. The retirement delay is postponing retirement savings for when you make more money, watching compound interest slip away forever. You tell yourself you'll start next year, after the raise, when things settle down. Meanwhile, the most powerful years for building wealth vanish silently. Compound interest works through time, not effort. A dollar invested at 25 grows exponentially more than a dollar invested at 40. Put away $200 a month starting at 25, and by 65, you'll have over $500,000, assuming average returns. Start at 40 with the same amount, and you'll barely break 200,000. Same effort, vastly different outcome. But when you're 25, retirement feels imaginary. Bills feel real. Student loans, rent, car payments. You convince yourself there's no room in the budget. You'll catch up later when you're earning more. Except later, there are kids, mortgages, bigger expenses. The budget never opens up. The delay becomes permanent. Every year you wait costs you compound growth you can never recover. Waiting from 25 to 35 doesn't mean you start 10 years late. It means you lose 30 years of growth on those 10 years of contributions. The math is merciless. Retirement accounts aren't for old you. They're for young you's money to grow while you sleep. Starting small beats starting later every single time. $200 a month at 25 destroys $500 a month at 40. You think you're waiting for the right time. There is no right time. There's only compounding time, and you're burning it waiting for perfect conditions that will never arrive. Brand loyalty tax. Brand loyalty tax is paying premium prices for names and logos that signal status, while identical alternatives cost half as much. You're not buying better quality. You're buying the feeling of being associated with the brand, and that feeling comes with a massive markup. Walk into any store and the pattern repeats. Name brand cereal costs $6. Store brand with the same ingredients costs $3. Designer jeans run $150. Nearly identical denim without the label costs $30. Premium cleaning products charge double for the same active chemicals as the generic
generic version sitting right next to them. The difference isn't performance. Blind tests prove this over and over. People can't tell store brand from name brand in taste tests. The active ingredients in medications are legally identical. The thread count in store brand towels matches the expensive ones. What you're paying for is marketing, packaging, and the logo. Companies spend billions making you believe their version is special, superior, worth the extra cost. They hire celebrities, create emotional ads, build an identity around their products. You start thinking the brand says something about you, that choosing it means you have taste, standards, success. But the premium you pay doesn't go into quality. It goes into advertising to convince the next person to overpay. You're funding the machine that manipulates you, then paying extra for the privilege. Generic works the same. It just doesn't make you feel special. And that feeling, that tiny hit of status, costs you tens of thousands over a lifetime. You're not loyal to quality. You're loyal to a story someone sold you about yourself. The side hustle trap. The side hustle trap is working second jobs to fund a lifestyle instead of fixing spending, trading your time for temporary relief while the real problem grows untouched. You're exhausted, burned out, and still broke because you're treating the symptom instead of the disease. It starts when the budget stops working. There's too much month at the end of the money. So instead of cutting expenses, you decide to earn more. Drive for a rideshare app, freelance on weekends, sell things online, deliver food at night. The money helps, briefly.
But here's what actually happens. The side income covers the overspending, so you never address why you're overspending.
The lifestyle that required extra work stays exactly the same. Worse, the extra money often inflates your spending further. You're working 60 hours a week, so you deserve takeout. You're tired, so you pay for convenience. The side hustle income vanishes into the same holes as your main income. Meanwhile, you're exhausted. No time for family, no energy for health, sleep suffers, stress climbs. You're grinding yourself down to maintain a spending level that shouldn't exist in the first place. The side work becomes permanent because the spending never shrinks. Cutting $500 in expenses gives you $500 every month forever. Earning an extra $500 requires constant work, ongoing effort, sacrifice time. One solves the problem, the other just powers through it. Side hustles aren't bad, but using them to avoid fixing your spending is like running on a treadmill to outrun your shadow. You can hustle forever and still never get ahead.